Bandai's metal structure Kaitai-shou-ki, one of the holy grails as far as Gundam related items go, next to the Mastermind Unicorn. Originally this figure was shown off on the heels of New Gundam's release. Then COVID hit and Bandai memory hold this guy for the better part of a year and a half, but it was randomly launched at the tail end of 2022 for the 35th anniversary of Char's counterattack in February of 2023, to everyone's surprise, including mine. Finding one of these was like pulling teeth, and I'm not joking. Every pre-order sold out faster than I could react or think. Even in Japan, I had people walking the streets hunting these down for me. Out of the 3 pre-orders I had, I was only able to get 1. Thank God. I knew you needed at least 3 to maybe get 1. Now I know how Darkside Phil feels when he's pulling 5-star Hogans. All over the world, this figure was being scalped. Even in the US, retailers put a price premium on Sazabi, with even some knocking this guy up to $3,000, while this originally debuted in Japan at retail of $1,500. That's a serious price markup, but I could go on as to why this figure costs so much and why it's so hard to get. Bandai for some reason launched this with half the units that the New Gundam launched with. Also, smaller Asian markets suffered from this as well. Some Asian countries only got as few as 5 Sazabis for retail across the entire board. Packing is great for Sazabi itself, and it's a slight improvement with the accessories over the New Gundam launch. They made sure to address the structural issues in the plastic from the last release, because before it was very flimsy and stuff just sort of fell out and it would fold in your hands. Sazabi's head is individually packed. So the cockpit comes in its own little box, and the head comes in its own little box, which is a nice touch. The paintwork for Char and Nanai are really well done. Many of the tiny details in Char's outfit have been lovingly recreated at such a small scale. The fin funnels and the tank especially I should say, has a few nice gimmicks that admittedly make absolutely no sense, other than it looks cool and it opens up for some odd reason. The shield also has hatch gimmicks that are nice to look at, which makes sense if it's just basically for a desk piece. You know, it's a showpiece item that you have someone come over, look at behind glass and go, that's nice. But with how quickly the shields were destroyed in Char's counterattack, it's almost funny to think about these add-ons, as they would serve absolutely no purpose because they'd be destroyed so easily. It'd be a waste of money from Anaheim Electronics. The overall look and vibe that this figure gives is a cross between the Ver-Ka Sazabi and the RG, with a splash of the Nightingale. Now here's a hot take for you. I feel the third form that resembles a Nightingale is completely and utterly unnecessary, and odds are added to development times, cost, and the overall price of the figure itself. It serves no purpose. The amount of people that I've seen that also have this don't really display it in that mode. Oh well, whatever. You might be wondering why I don't show off more of this figure and all of its little tchotchkes and gimmicks. Well, I broke the fuel tank wing when I was trying to mount this on its stand. The stand requires that you pull out the lower section of the body in order to lock it into place. There's a lot of locking and ratchet gimmicks that do require a bit of muscle. You know, you really got to strong arm this thing, and it's a admittedly now $3,000 figure if you try to buy one second hand. So I was so worried about breaking it that I ended up breaking it anyway. Ironic. I actually had no interest in filming this, till someone said to me that it might be a good idea to do to bring more traffic to my channel between my builds that take absorbently long amounts of time. Ultimately, I went against my gut to film this for YouTube, and I paid the price. So that's why this video isn't covering every little gimmick and knickknack. Now back on point. Since we're on the topic of gimmicks that require a bit of strong arming, some of the features in this figure really require you to put a lot of force to get them to work, and this can lead to easy scratching in the paint. Not ideal. The instructions also don't have an English translation, oddly enough, which for a figure like this, I think it's warranted. There are so many little nuances where trying to open a hatch or pull out the third form of its ridiculous build requires you to follow a great deal of instructions. Thankfully they have pictures, but there's a lot of warning signs that are in Japanese, and you have to pull out your translator just to understand that if you don't pull this a certain way, it'll go into this, and that will lead to that breaking. It's a real pain in the ass. The ratchet joints are solid for the most part. Sazabi can stand on its own, but It's clearly very heavy, and it'll easily tip over once you get it standing. The ratchet joints in the knees, though they work, there's a bit of sway there due to the overwhelming weight of the kit itself. I don't know why I said kit, but you know what I mean. And the backpack once you put everything onto it. I would strongly suggest only displaying this with the base or inside of a case where it cannot fall over and break or shatter glass. I know if I don't do this, people would have said something to me in the messages, so here it is. A size comparison between the Kaitai-shou-ki new Gundam and Sazabi. They were both big, but they aren't full 1/60 of scale figures, sadly. The core cast new Gundam dwarfs both of these. And yes, I know, I'm only displaying this with 3 out of 6 fin funnels, because new Gundam is too tall with his fin funnels to fit in my glass case with any more than 3. And when I tried to get to my storage to get the extra fin funnels, I realized it was going to be more hassle than it was worth for this video, so yeah, I didn't. This figure does have an overall premium feel in some areas, like the box design, and the way Sazabi can do a multitude of interesting little, but the hanger itself is lacking, to be honest. It's cheap black plastic covered in seams and an uninspired paint job. When you think about Mega House and how much work they put into their hanger parts, there's more effort put into the paint job there than what you get with the metal structure Kaitai-shou-ki, and it comes at a fraction of the price. Now I know it's 1/144 scale, but still, the level of paint work there could be applicable to something like this, but it just doesn't exist for some odd reason. I guess for a figure that will be inside of a display case in most instances, it'll be cool. But for the painter in me, I look at this bare black plastic and one coat of silver paint with a few decals and think they probably could have done more for the price. I feel like this is where they skimp out the most. Maybe they could have dropped the third Nightingale form hatch gimmick and put more into the hanger bay to make it look less toy-like. I forgot to mention the beam shotgun. It's actually very nice. I do love the dark color separation, and the opening hatch gimmicks on this are a nice touch and don't feel ridiculous or over the top. This is where the hatch gimmick works and makes total sense, whereas to the hatch gimmick on the shield kind of confuses me. The crew member figures are okay. That's the best way to sum them up. I hope a third party makes copies of these, or maybe I'll do it myself so I can paint them the way I want to make them pop out more. And overall, this is a must-have for any Char and Amuro fan. I remember buying my first DVD as a kid. It was Char's Counterattack. Who knew that years later I'd be able to get my hands on something like this? Anyway, if you have the money and the ability to get this close to retail, something like $2,000, 2003, 2005, I would probably recommend buying it for the collector's factor alone. I'm pretty sure in time this will only gain value, so you could look at it as a physical asset in the uncertain future we live in. Or you could just call me crazy. The major drawback of this figure itself is how limited it was, which drives up the price to ridiculously insane levels that are at times dizzying. But if the rumor mill is true, and the pictures I saw a few months back could be trusted, then Daban might be doing their own version of the metal structure new Gundam from what I can tell, and it's spot on. So Sazabi probably wouldn't be far behind, and as we all know, if Daban does it, it'll probably be a fraction of the price that Tamashii Nations wants for it. On top of that, I have seen the new Gundam fin funnels that are third party. They look dead on. I might buy some and do a comparison video. I don't know, maybe, maybe not. Let me know what you think in the comments, for God's sakes. I don't know. So I kind of hate throwing money at this channel. Well, that's going to do it for me. As the man who gave me my first airbrush said, do great things.